Good morning. It is Thursday, September 19th, and today is the memorial of St. Januarius. This is Michigan Mornings from Ave Maria Radio and the Ave Maria Radio app. I'm Matthew Handley. Coming up, how did the early church pray? More on that shortly, but first, your local weather and this news. Restaurant servers and bartenders are urging lawmakers to make changes to the upcoming minimum wage hike that will take their pay to $12 an hour next February. The group Save MI Tips says the wage hike will increase restaurant prices and result in them receiving less tips, meaning what they are paid will go down.
We're already dealing with customers who are strapped by inflation. If they get to go out to dinner, it's a luxury. And so if all those prices go up, tipping is just going to disappear.
That's Save MI Tips spokesman John Selleck. The Michigan Supreme Court ruled in July that the then Republican-controlled legislature's actions to adopt and amend the minimum wage increase petition was unconstitutional. Arab American and Muslim leaders are calling on Attorney General Dana Nessel to drop the charges filed against pro-Palestinian protesters who were arrested at the University of Michigan earlier this year. Imad Hamad, the executive director of the American Human Rights Council, wants charges dropped against those protesters.
She's sending a very alarming message to intimidate and suppress people from expressing their views freely, especially the students who are our future.
9 people have been charged. A federal judge says Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s name will remain on the presidential ballot in Michigan. Kennedy has suspended his independent presidential campaign to endorse Donald Trump and has been working to get his name removed from the ballots in battleground states. A Michigan judge denied his appeal on Wednesday, saying 90% of the state's ballots have been printed already and would cost over $500,000 to reprint them. The dispute between Macomb and Oakland counties over sewage discharge into Lake St. Clair is escalating. Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner Jim Nash responded to Macomb County's Public Works Commissioner Candace Miller, saying the sewage from their county is not harming the lake. He says Miller's claims are, quote, nothing more than a political diversion from the real problem, and says Macomb County has not addressed their infrastructure issues for the past decade. Nash says that is despite guidance and recommendations from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. And the Detroit Tigers have gained on the Minnesota Twins in the race for the American League's third wildcard spot. The Tigers beat the Kansas City Royals yesterday 4-2 to sweep the series, while the Twins lost to the Cleveland Guardians 5-4 in 10 innings. Detroit has today off before taking on Baltimore on the road Friday through Sunday. You're listening to Michigan Mornings from Ave Maria Radio and the Ave Maria Radio app. Your local weather's coming up next. Now this.
Persecution around the world has manifested itself through the centuries, but it is worse today than ever before. Aid to the Church in Need and its donors have been there to help since 1947, never abandoning the Church or her most vulnerable children. Will you stand up for your faith and accompany our brothers and sisters on their spiritual journey? Visit churchinneed.org. churchinneed.org.
It's going to be a nice day in the Motor City. We'll have sunny skies with a high around 82. Tonight will be mostly clear with lows around 61. Tomorrow we can expect mostly sunny skies with a high around 83. Saturday will be mostly sunny with highs in the mid-80s, and Sunday will be partly sunny with temperatures in the lower 80s. We have some patchy fog lingering around this morning, but it should clear out by 10 a.m. Otherwise, we'll have sunny skies today in the Saginaw Valley with a high around 84. Tonight will be mostly clear with lows around 59. Tomorrow we may see some showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Otherwise, it will be sunny with a high around 85. Saturday will be mostly sunny with highs in the mid-80s. And Sunday will be partly sunny with a chance of rain and temperatures in the lower 80s. Dr. James Papandrea joined Vanessa Denhagarmo on Epiphany recently to talk about his new book, Praying Like the Early Church.
I spent my career studying the early church and the early Christians because, I believe that, what the Christians who were closest in time to the apostles, what they were doing and what they believed and what they wrote and what the church fathers taught, I believe that that's important. And so I had written this book called Reading Scripture Like the Early Church, and this seemed like the obvious sort of follow-up to that. And it turns out there hasn't been a lot of work done on looking back at the early church to see what was the prayer life of the average Christian like back in the early church. And so that's what the book is about.
So why is it important for us to read Scripture like the early church and pray like the early church? What is the value for us today in this modern time?
Well, I think that one of the things that we have lost in our contemporary culture is the value of that which stands the test of time. In other words, we're such a technology-driven culture now that we're sort of, conditioned to think that whatever is newest is automatically the best just because it's the newest. And actually, in the history of our faith, it was always the opposite. What is most true is that which has stood the test of time. And so within the context of, the Christian church and our Catholic faith, it's important to look back and see, Jesus taught his disciples. What did they teach their disciples? And what did they teach their disciples? Because they were closest to Jesus, much closer in time than we are. And so they have a kind of advantage over us in knowing how Jesus himself and the apostles would have interpreted our New Testament and the Bible and how they prayed. And so it's important for us to reconnect with the early church in that way.
Epiphany is on weekdays at noon here on Ave Maria Radio. I'm Matthew Handley. Thanks for joining me. That does it for this edition of Michigan Mornings on a Thursday. Stay tuned to Ave Maria Radio for more inspiring and engaging Catholic talk radio. And Lord willing, I will talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.